topic for today then?
Today I wanted to talk about HTTP and REST and something called JSON RPC.
Mm.
And then first, so REST. It's an acronym, but it doesn't really matter. It doesn't really matter what it stands for, or what it stands for doesn't really. It's not so explanatory, I find. Mm. But it's something that is on top of HTTP, right? Mm. HTTP is the language that web browsers and web servers speak, and there's something that's often called RESTful APIs. Mm-hmm. So API, I can write down. There's a lot of acronyms here, right? API. Mm. That stands for Application Programming Interface. Right. So that explains what it is. Mm. So that's really a way for one application to talk to another application. Yeah. There was before, like 10 or 15 years ago, there was something called Ajax. Mm. That's really the same. It's just changed the name, I would say. I want to make you like a little bit of a to distinguish two things. So we can use REST when our app is talking to someone else's app. Mm. That's one way of using it. But it's also very common to use it when our app our part of the app that's running in a web browser is talking to the part of our app that's also running on the server. Right. And these are two slightly different use cases with like different requirements, you could say. Because if our app is talking to someone else's app, it needs to be very well defined. So very well defined and documented exactly what parameters are supposed to be sent. And if they want to change that on their end, that's going to be a big deal, because then we also need to update our app. But when our app is talking to our app, it's not so strict. But it's often used that way. We can call it like internal communication in an app, when the same app is running on the server and the client.
Right,
or internally in a full stack app, right? And I made a little app here. It's a contact form. So I just type something like that, mm-hmm. and submit it, and it came in here now. Mm-hmm. But the interesting thing I want to show now is the code for this. So this is my app done in React.
Yeah.
And it's really this part that I want to focus on, but you can just go through the rest as well, right? This is just a form in React, and when the button is clicked, it calls this function. On submit click, and in submit click, that's where everything is. That's when where everything is done. And this code is familiar, like if you have worked with REST. So we use the call fetch. It's a post request, and then we're sending some JSON, and then we need to send the body of the request as text. So we convert the data into text, and then we need to first make this call to fetch and await the response. And then to actually get the response, we need to do await again. So this is really a function call that we're making to the server. Mm. And then if we now also look at the server side, then we need to register like a handler, a middleware. Sometimes it's called a middleware, sometimes it's called a handler. It depends a little bit what framework we're using, and I'm using Hono here. So we say that on a post to this URL, that's the code to handle the data. So we need to take the request comes in as a parameter here, and then we need to decode the JSON and do something with it. So now we have built two parts of the RESTful communication.
Yeah.
Here is the client that makes the call, and this is the server that handles the call. So yeah, this is internally in an app how you can make a call from the client to the server.
Yeah.
Yeah.
With RESTful.
With REST, yes.
Okay. So what is JSON RPC then?
Yeah, well, JSON RPC, well, I think when I look at this code, I think that it is really a function call. And if we see the app as really, if we see the full stack app as one app, we're really just making a call. We're really just making a function call. And if this is just a function call, I think that this is actually a lot of boilerplate or a lot of extra code for just making a function call. And it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. It's like 10 lines of code to just make a function call. So that's why I thought of using JSON RPC.
Okay.
Yeah. So why does this have to be so many lines of code just to make a function call? That's what we can ask. And it's because it needs to be very generic. Right? If we want to call Instagram, say, there are actually many details about how we can do that. It's like what format do we use to encode the data? In this case, it's JSON, so that needs to be specified, right? And now we're just saving a tiny amount of data, but sometimes we want to send a whole image that can be a couple of hundred of kilobytes, and in that case, we might want to stream the response or do something with the response, so that needs to be that needs to be built into the mechanism that all of those things are possible. So yeah, therefore it needs to be this many lines.
But you don't like that?
Well, I don't think it's clean, and I've thought about different ways to make this be cleaner in a way. And JSON RPC is a solution for that. And what I thought was interesting, I haven't really seen JSON RPC being used for web apps in this way. It's often used for, I know it's used in Bitcoin. When you talk to a Bitcoin server, that's often done with JSON RPC. So like internally in apps, it's often used, but not so much for like traditional web apps. So yeah, so I made a little thing so that you can use JSON RPC for web apps as well. And yeah, JSON RPC is really not anything magic. When we make a function call, we have some parameters we want to send, and we have the name of the function we want to call. So JSON RPC is just a tiny little way to serialize that data. Yeah. And I have a different version of the program here that uses JSON RPC instead. And here then, we have an RPC endpoint. Now we don't really need to care about what happens, how that. There is RESTful underneath. There is REST being used underneath. But with JSON RPC, it's easier to abstract this, so we don't have to think about it. And here instead, a function call is just really a function call. And we can see on the server side as well, this is now just a function that is defined as a function. And it takes parameters like a function. And then, yeah, it can do whatever you want with the parameters, but there is no boilerplate to like extract the data from the parameters.
Yeah.
They just come in the same way as they would in a normal function call. So that's how we can use JSON RPC in a web app. And here is really just the actual code. This is the 10 lines that's needed for a REST call. And here are just a few lines needed for the JSON RPC version.
What are the pros and cons then of this?
I think that I really like I really like the code to be neat and nice, right? And I like when something that's just a function call looks like a function call.
Right. What are the cons?
It uses an extra moving part in between. So that can be, there is like one level of abstraction. And that's a question, what you think about abstraction. I mean, in generally, we are being taught when we learn programming that abstraction is something good and something that we should strive for. Right? But with every level of abstraction that we put in our whole stack, it's going to be harder for someone else to understand what's going on as well. So that can be the drawback possibly. All right, what do you think? Yeah, does it not? Have you never been annoyed at this? Like you have to put a wait here and then a wait again here. Like you have to do two function calls in order to call one function.
Not so much, no.
Okay, I guess there are different things that we like to think.
Like if I had to do it 1,000 times, then maybe that would be annoying. But it hasn't been a big pain point for me, really.
Okay.
No.
Yeah. Well, we can see then. Well, I'm really curious to hear what other people have to say. I realize that this is not something that people worry about. How can I avoid having two await statements for making one function call? But I'm not the only one. I remember, I couldn't find it now, but I remember on Stack Overflow there was a discussion as well about this.
That's all?
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. See you next time, I guess.
Yeah, bye. See you next time.
Bye.